Welcome aboard the Boat Buyers Secret Weapon podcast, where we're dedicated to helping first-time and experienced boat buyers find the right boat at the best price so they have years and years of boating fun, because life truly is better on a boat. Today's podcast is sponsored by the Boat Buyers Secret Weapon YouTube channel. Don't pay too much for your next boat. Just visit boatbuyerssecretweapon.com/save to watch a short video. Now, let's hop aboard and have some fun.
Hey, this is Captain Matt, Boat Buyer's Secret Weapon, and we've got another State of the Boat Buying Market update for you. I'm recording this now on April 26th, 2022. So this is the spring 2022 market update. Here's what we're going to talk about. We're going to look at some facts and figures, some trends, current market conditions. I'm going to show you proof that the end of the boom is here. I don't know. A few predictions, an answer to the question, should you buy a boat now? And also a question I've been getting, hey, should I buy new or slightly used? It seems like the used boats may not be as good of value as I was expecting. So this is a survey done with boat dealers across the U.S. and Canada. Their current outlook, it's good. 50 on this survey is, hey, we're neutral. Things are okay. The 3-year outlook, it's starting to 3 to 5 years starting to trend down. They're saying, hey, it's still okay, but there's a little bit of not really sure, may think it might not continue the way it has been. So that's the sentiment from the industry. What does it look like from the economic standpoint? Well, we all know inflation is here. There's no question about it. If you've been watching boat prices, gas prices have gone up. Everything in the grocery store has gone up. Everything at Target, everything has increased in price for a number of reasons. Supply chain issues is one of them, but just regular old inflation is also there. Let's take a look at gas. We talked about that. We had the huge spike in gas prices from 2020, mid 2020 or so to now. But the price of gas has actually, as I record this a month ago, this is from AAA, it went down 424.3 to 4.131. So it went down 10, 11 cents per gallon in the last couple of days. You can see it's starting to tick down. Is that because the war in Ukraine, it spiked up and now it's going to settle down to regular levels? But either way you slice it, it went up from under $3 a gallon just a year ago, and fuel prices have gone up. It's not stopping people from boating from what I'm seeing. If it goes up into the $5 a gallon on average, maybe we've got something to think about there. We'll talk about that. The Consumer Price Index. So another look at inflation, but this is a UBS estimate of where things are going to go. In April, they say, hey, we think it's going to come down a little bit, and we think it's going to continue to trickle down because we think it's mostly related to supply chain issues and the gas price increase, which we think is a temporary thing. We think that gas is going to come down over the long haul, are some of the reasons they put behind their projections. Now, I'm sure that you can find others that have, hey, inflation is going to continue to increase and it's not going to come down. But everything that I was finding was pretty consistent with, hey, we're kind of at the worst of it, and I think it's going to come down with the Fed making the moves that they are, and just because of the nature of why inflation is as high as it is, okay? So if you read the headlines, risk of recession is rising as problems just keep cascading throughout the economy, economist says. Well, when you actually dig into the article, they say 1 in 4 economists believe the U.S. will experience a recession this year, so 2022, with 40% saying, hey, in the next 2 years, we could see a recession. So still, fewer than half the economists that were surveyed said in the next 2 years, we're going to see a recession. If you look at it from what's going to happen in the next 12 months, it was 13% a year ago said, hey, there's probably going to be a recession. Now they say a whopping 28% are predicting a recession. So they make it sound like everybody's saying this is going to happen. It's a sure thing. And yet people that are way smarter than me, only a third of them, less than a third of them, think that that's the direction things are going. So I think it's a little bit of a difference between the messages that are in the headlines and the clickbait versus the reality of what the experts are projecting. What does the inventory level looks like? We're in the industry now. Well, the dealers are still reporting, hey, new boat industry is crazy low. Used boat inventory is crazier lower. So it was like 94%, 92% for new boats, and 96% for used boat. Percentage of dealers saying inventory is too low. And yet, if you really zoom in, you can see some red there, which says there are some dealers, a percent or 2 or 3, that are saying, hey, inventory is too high. What that tells me is they're probably in a segment of the marketplace that isn't doing as well. So there is some segmentation issues, and there's some regional issues, some of them being in Canada, from what I'm understanding. We'll talk about that. So I wanted to show this graph again. I talked about it in the February update that we did, and I showed that, hey, yes, numbers were down in 2021, mainly because, in my opinion, because of supply chain issues, okay? I still think that's true. The numbers came out, it was down just ever so slightly. But when you look back at the historical numbers, I looked at in 2007, when the recession hit, right? Mortgage meltdown, all of that, housing crisis, the inventory, or the units registered and sold, were just over 250,000. And it dropped down to just under 150,000. So a little over 100,000 unit drop, about a third, we'll call it, probably a little bit more than that. If you look at where we have built back up to, this is us rebuilding from the recession. Even in 2020, the best year in a decade, there still was just over 220,000 boats built, just over 200,000 boats built. And this is taking out personal watercraft in these numbers. It gets closer to 300,000 if you count PWCs in, but just over 200,000 in 2021. So all those people that say there's going to be a huge glut of used boats out there, the reality is we're still kind of making up for this big dip in production from 2008, 2009, 2010, when I got into the boating industry selling, and I had no idea that this was some of the worst boat sales numbers ever. And, that's when I got started, and that's when I learned the industry. The reality is that people that are in this phase right now looking to buy a used boat, one of the reasons used boat prices have gone up so much is because when you go back, there were 50, 60, 70, 100,000 less boats available than if you were to go 2007 and back. And I bet if you're looking at used boats right now, you can easily find those boats that are 2003, 2004, 2005, 2006, 2007, but it's real hard to find one that's 2010, 11, 12, because they weren't being produced. They're just not out there. So I think that's an interesting historical perspective to have as we continue this conversation. So as we look at the history of sales, I also wanted to pull this. This is from Google. This is people that have searched used boats for sale. Okay, so my assumption being, as a marketing person, as a logical person, if people are searching used boats for sale, that's an indication of demand, right? Well, this is since 2004 trend, when they started sharing this data and accumulating it. You can see the seasonality, the up and the down, the up and the down. Right here in this red is 2008. The lowest, you can see it drop down. And then it's a pretty steady, as you look at the trends of, that's a fairly slow and steady increase. And you kind of see that same thing, kind of a slow and steady increase. Well, right here, you can see this little blip and then a spike. Well, what happened right here? Well, March 11th, the WHO declares a pandemic. Trump declares a national emergency. Travel bans, right? Mid-March. Then, March 26th, the Senate passes the CARE Act. Trump signs the CARE Act on the 27th, and boom, everyone's like, hey, we got some money. We got some free time. Why don't we think about getting a boat? Now, you'll see that it came back down seasonally, and it jumps back up in 2021, but not to as high of level, but still higher than we've seen since 2004, okay? Internet in its infancy here, so some of that is internet becomes more of a staple in searching for boats. And some of this peak right here, as we kind of dial in on it, you can see that peak. Some of that is also going to be attributed to, I've got a lot of extra time, I'm working from home, or I'm not working. And I don't think all those people were necessarily truly in the market to buy a boat, but some of them were just hey, maybe a boat. Wonder what's all about. Might as well check boats out. But really had no intention of buying them. But you can see the demand, but we still have that demand is still pretty high. And these trend numbers, they're not actual numbers. They're a guide, a trend for marketers who use Google AdWords and search. So it's not a true, this is 1,000 and this is 1,000. It's a trend. But then we had this little blip right here. So what this is, the Ukraine conflict and gas prices going up. So about early March, we see that, crap, what the heck's going to go on? But we also have the seasonality increase that has happened for every year since boats have been made, right, in North America. We have that seasonality, oh crap, what's going to happen? But it's starting to come back. But you can see that trend line just a slight touch flatter than it was in 2021, certainly flatter than it was in 2020, but about what you would expect in the reality, because you've got boat shows hit in January. These little dotted lines are January. Boat show hit. Oh, boat show, interesting. And then you see a little bit of dip down after the boat show season. Memorial Day, dip down 4th of July, dip down Labor Day, dip down some fall boat shows, and then dip down to Christmas real flat, and then it starts to pick back up in January. That happens every year since I've been in the industry. And so we're seeing, hey, that demand is still there. Not only is that demand still there, but this group of people and this group of people have bought boats and are just waiting for them to be delivered. They're, 2 months, 6 months, 8 months, 12 months in some cases. And so there's still people that we're in this group that are no longer searching boats for sale, but are going to be taking delivery of boats in the next, several weeks, several months. You'll see them all over Facebook. So how does that relate to actual boats sold and registered? Well, if you look at the most recent numbers on the MRAA and Braillard Research Report, you can see, hey, they're down slightly year over year. 2022 to 2021, they're down in some segments 15, 18, 19%. Pontoons up slightly, but overall down about 12%. I think it's a little bit, if you look at the month to month numbers, down 20, 21, 22%. Pontoons up about 3%. I think some of that has to do with the variation in the supply chain and when boats were being delivered, when boats were being registered. So yes, you can start seeing that, make the assumption that the industry is softening. I think some of it has to do more with just the timing of registrations. And I want to get a little bit further into the year before I make any assumptions about things are way cooling off. But you can see it's flattening slightly. And then, we've got the peak yet to be seen here. And by July, I'll be able to say, hey, we're seeing some issues. Even month over or week over week, you can see these trends if you look at them. So some of the people are saying, hey, this is because of a big COVID bubble. This is taken from Infolink Technologies and from an article that was in Soundings Trade Only. And the guy was making the case for, hey, this is the correction to the COVID bubble. What I think is missed in saying, hey, we're in the correction phase and things are going downhill is, again, I think these numbers that he was making these assumptions from are a little bit off because the supply chain didn't allow deliveries to happen like they normally do, right? Like they normally do in the industry. It's because that demand was always constant. It was just a matter of when can we get the motors? When can we get the windshield? When can we get the cushions for the seats and that type of thing? So, but something to consider that maybe that is a sign of softening, okay? So another thing I did in the February was I did a search for used boats, boat trader in my zip code, 200 miles, $10,000 to $75,000 used boats, all power boats, and 1,116 boats for sale. My assumption was if everybody's prediction that there's going to be a glut of boats coming on the market because people can't afford them as they paid for them through the winter, that we should see an increase in boats for sale. Well, here's what happened. Same search, 10,000 to 75,000 used, all power, all gas. In my zip code, same 200-mile radius, 1,114. So we actually came down less than 100. So it's, in my mind, it's pretty similar. But I did this search on April 26th, this search on February 2nd. So that hey, there's going to be a glut of used boats on the market this year because people are going back to work and people are getting back to travel, and they had to pay for winterization, and their storage slip due is coming, their storage bill is coming due again. And we're just not seeing that based on this search. And I'm going to continue to do this search in all of my market updates and try to watch that number. And if the boats are being listed, they're selling just as quickly. So that is not what we're seeing. Still having supply chain issues, Yamaha especially, shipping, hiring issues, quality issues. All of those things are still in play from the previous ones. If you haven't watched those, I go into it in a lot more detail. But supply chain issues, they're getting better, they're improving, but there's some things that we need to think about. China is having lockdowns again. Fear of Beijing lockdowns. 4 million people let out of their homes. That was just 6 days ago, a day ago, again, from April 26th as I record this. If China has additional shutdowns and COVID truly does come back there, what happens to all of the components that we count on to build the motors, to build the boats, to build the windshields, to build the accessories? What happens in another 6 months when we're looking for all that stuff to build the things that we want to buy? Well, if that's continues, could be another ding in the getting units out the door. Canada has their luxury tax in place. I had a guy on the live that we do every Sunday at 8:30 Eastern time. We're seeing a lot of inventory at the dealers in Canada. I did some spot checking at dealers in Canada. I didn't see anything that was worrisome, but he was saying in his area in Canada, I think he was in Ontario, that they were having higher than he would expect boat numbers, inventory levels at the dealers that he was visiting. And he said, I don't think it's because of the $250,000 luxury tax that they put in place that just went into effect this year, but something to watch on the higher end boats in Canada. The other thing that I talked about in last February's was, hey, the price of aluminum has continued to go up. Well, what's happening to the aluminum price? You can see it did spike up. It dropped back down, but now we're seeing that spike up again, and it's starting to come down again. With China maybe going through some shutdowns again, well, a lot of the aluminum comes from China. It's processed over there. So, yeah, we did see aluminum prices skyrocket, dip back down, but we are way up on aluminum prices. The trends in the stock market are from 2017. I mean, huge gains over the last 5 years. But as you can see in 2022, starting to come down. Why is this important? Because the people that are buying boats, you folks that are listening here, are doing well. You're not watching this saying, I'm going to buy a boat if you think you're going to lose your job next week, or you're barely scraping by. You've got money. You likely have money invested in a portfolio of some size. You have some savings set away. And the higher the market goes, the more comfortable people are buying boats, and that demand will continue because, hey, yes, there's inflation. Yes, there's concern, but I've got $500,000 in the bank. I've got $2 million in the bank, in assets. My home value is going through the roof still. I feel good about spending $100,000 on a boat, or $50,000 on a boat, or $20,000 on a boat. Well, in the last 6 months, though, you see this little tail off here. That last 6 months, we're seeing it start to come down, but still at very high levels. This is the S&P 500, a pretty good indicator. So the wealth is still there. So here's my predictions. The demand, it's going to continue through 2023. So it's going to go through the boat show season next year into June, July, and people are going to still be buying boats. Inventory levels are still going to be low because the 2022 models, they're still sold out for a lot of makes and models right now as we speak, and it will continue. We're only in April. May is the biggest sales month. June, July are really big sales months. They're going to be selling 2023 ordered boats, and that's going to keep the manufacturers busy through the end of this year into mid next year. The dealers are going to have boats to deliver. There's not going to be that supply. So even if sales tick down, that the demand is still there because the boats aren't being produced yet. The supply chain issues, I think they're going to continue into 2023. From research from people way smarter than me, the things happening in China maybe pushes out even further and adds another monkey wrench into the plans. Prices continue to increase on new boats through 2024 model year. Now, those 2024 model years, they start arriving in August of 2023. So we're going to continue. This inflation, it's real. It's not just a ploy for people to make more money and gouge. That's not the case. The reality is there's inflation, components are going up, labor costs are going up, prices of boats are going up accordingly. So don't expect any major discounts until September of 2023. Like I said, that the demand's going to continue through mid 2023. If we see that demand dip and now dealers are carrying more inventory they're comfortable after Labor Day of 2023, now we're going to see dealers and maybe even manufacturers say, uh-oh, we see the writing on the wall. We're going into a slowdown. We really got to cut back production. And we're going to put some discounts out there, some rebates out there to move these boats so that we can get those cleared out and we can continue building them and keep our factories moving and making boats, because they don't want idle factories sitting. That's not good for anybody. Or the discounts don't come because demand stays at a good level, okay? Used boat prices, they're going to hold at current levels. They may increase slightly if the supply chain gets worse or doesn't start to improve in the next 6 months. But, they're at a level right now where I'm seeing them kind of level off, and they're ticking up ever so slightly. And I think we're going to see that trend continue. Interest rates on boats likely going to increase, as the feds have already said they are increasing the Fed fund rate. That's going to trickle down to us as consumers. Boat loan rates are going to increase as well. And you may have already started seeing it. Well, what that means is the person that was going to buy a $20,000 boat, well, they need to buy an $18,000 boat to get that monthly payment that they need. $100,000 boat, now you need to get a $90,000 boat if you're financing for that same payment. The risks. There's still risks. There's still so many unknowns that I'm certainly not smart enough to figure out. Even the economists that do this as this is what they get and this is what they do, like I get boats, they're divided, right? They don't even know. 28% of them are saying recession. 72% are saying no recession this year. So gas prices, if they increase significantly in the summer, maybe that's going to hit demand. But remember, people that are buying boats, they have disposable income. They're not just getting by. So an extra $100 a month to go out on the boat isn't going to stop them from going out. They'll just go and anchor out more than cruise and surf or go way offshore. Continued long-term inflation. That's the big one in my mind. That's the one that if the monetary changes that the Fed makes don't change, and that inflation is more than just due to supply chain issues and the money that was infused in the economy with the stimulus, if it's more systemic, maybe the right word, that could be a concern. Opening of international travel, it's starting. My daughter just went to Paris with their grandparents last week. And it was, they had to wear masks, they had to do COVID tests, they had to show their vaccine card. But they had a great trip. They didn't have any issues with travel. They saw a lot of folks from the U.S. And all over the world in Paris on vacation. So that's starting up. Does that kind of, we're not using our boat as much and we're doing that? Well, we're not seeing it in the listings on Boat Trader yet, but do we start to see that? I don't know. COVID resurgence, it's starting in China, so they say. What's going to happen there? I don't know. An unknown. Politics, luxury taxes, regulation. We've got the election in 2024. What's going to happen? What promises are going to be made? What's going to be talked about to win the extremes, which happens in our country, unfortunately, to win the extremes? And is something ridiculous going to be put into play on either side that could be a big problem? So that's something to watch, and a risk, which is in a luxury market, those things matter. So those are my predictions. Those are the risks. So should you buy a boat in the next 6 to 12 months? Well, it's the same as I always talk about. If you've enjoyed this, hit that like button, share this in your boating groups. I would appreciate it. Make a comment on if you agree, disagree, whatever. So yes, here's the deal. Boats are not going to get cheaper in the next 2 years. The soonest I could see boat prices maybe going down or discounts is at the end of 2024. If we're seeing a high level of inventory that the dealers and manufacturers aren't comfortable with, then we're going to see some discounts. I didn't say lower prices than you see right now, discounts to the higher prices that will be in place in 2024. So if you can afford it with a good cushion, if you understand you're paying 5 to 15% or more than you would have 5 years ago, even on some of the used stuff, and that's not going to drive you insane. And I hope it doesn't, because the prices are up. This is where boats are. I don't see them crashing to the ground like I talked about. They didn't build as many boats in that 07, 08, 09, 2010. And even as they ramped up to 2020, they didn't produce huge numbers like they did in the early 2000s. Would you rather spend money to make memories today, or hey, I'm not going to buy a boat for 25,000 that I could have bought for 18,000 4 years ago? If you'd rather have that money than make the memories with the age of your kids, where you are in your life, you may not be mobile enough to get on the boat for many more years, depending if you're in the older category, whatever your situation. If it's a investment in relationships, an investment in your well-being, investment in enjoyment, just like you don't take a vacation and say, oh, that was a waste of money because the vacation's over now. No, you take vacations not because of the financial rewards that you get for them. It's the same thing with boat. If you try to buy a boat and justify it as a financial investment, except for the last couple of years, which is an anomaly, you're just making a stupid mistake. And I would say right now, if you're making a boat buying decision because you're going to try to flip it in 2 years and make a bunch of money, I don't know that that's going to happen either. But you've got to be okay with those decisions. And listen, you work hard. You deserve to enjoy your financial success. We've gone through, even in the best of situations, we've gone through a wacky and wild time over the last 2.5 years. And enjoy your success. You can't take it with you. Do it if these things apply to you and you're thinking about it. But don't do it if you're going to be stretching too much financially, because inflation is for real. The costs of boating, all of that's going to be hit by inflation, right? So if you're barely getting by and that inflation continues and your dollar doesn't go as far, everything else equal, you're going to be struggling and you're going to be hating the fact that you have that stupid boat that's costing you so much money and you only go out on it. Doesn't matter how many times, but you're going to say, I only went out on it 10 times. That's not worth it. If you're going to regret it in a couple of years when prices correct themselves and you take a reasonable depreciation, you don't make that money like your buddy did when he ordered his boat in 2018 and he sold it in 2020 and upgraded and he made 30 grand and now he's got this maxed out pontoon or whatever center console. If you can't handle that, then no, don't buy a boat. If you feel like, holy crap, there's too much chaos in the world right now. There's the war in Ukraine, there's gas prices, there's the election coming up, there's inflation. I see a housing bubble on the horizon. I don't necessarily agree with that, but I'm a boat guy, not an economics guy. But if you have that view of the world that there's just too much volatility to make a fun money, non-financial investment right now, then no, then don't buy the boat. But if you do buy the boat, first thing you need to do is get the Boat Buyer's Toolkit. It's totally free. Set your budget and your boating budget. So the budget for the boat, how much am I willing to spend on the boat? And how much am I going to have to spend for boating fun? All in. There's a calculator in the toolkit. It's going to be a huge resource for you. Figure out what 80% of your boating looks like, and then the other 20%. Buy the boat for the 80%, accommodate the 20% if you can. Visit marinas, boat ramps, dealers, because there's not going to be many boats to inspect at dealerships. I've been to a ton of boat shows this year, and they were a third lower. Now we're 2-3 months past the boat shows. Those boats are gone. They're delivered to customers. The ones that are coming in are likely being delivered to customers very quickly. The inventory that's there is going to be limited. So if you want to see the certain types of boats, you're going to have to get a little bit creative on your own. Know exactly what you want. Have your finances ready. Get pre-approved if you're going to go that direction and finance a portion. And then act quickly to lock it in. Yes, I want this boat. Here's the deposit, which most dealers are going to want. Individuals, I would be hesitant to put any money up front with an individual, but however you're going to lock it in, work it out, and then inspect it slowly and completely. And for God's sakes, put that boat on the water and run it. I got another email from a guy just the other day. He bought a 2018 Boston Whaler Montauk. Mercury 4-stroke on the back. He said, as I cranked it up and I found there was a mechanical issue with the boat that seems to be pretty major, I kept thinking, Captain Matt is cussing me for this. He told me, run the boat, run the boat. He thought, it's a 2018. It's lightly used. It's a whaler. It's going to be great. What could be wrong? Well, he now has a huge, huge problem on his hand. A very expensive boat that doesn't run and needs very expensive repairs to get it worthy of the water. So remember, the boat's not yours until you put up real money, okay? They sold it out from under me. If you don't have money down, that boat's not yours. Don't think it is. Don't drive 3 hours to go look at a boat unless you have money and it's locked in, or you've got something else that's going to say, hey, this boat's yours and I'm going to hold it for you, okay? Sea trial demo. Don't risk it. I'm telling you, don't do it. You're going to say, but the boat's in beautiful shape. It's grandma had it. It's never been driven. Drive it. Even if it's a brand new boat, do it. If you're ordering a boat and you're not sure, hey, is this the right horsepower? Is this the right whatever? Maybe go to Boat Setter or Get My Boat, or ask the dealer if they can set you up with a client to run a similar boat so you can make your decision that, yes, this is what I want. Again, you got to get creative right now because of the lack of inventory. Inspect it completely before taking delivery and writing the check. That goes for a brand new ordered boat that they just took off the truck. Had a guy that got the boat right off the truck, big old ding in his fencing that he had already signed the paperwork, and it happened during the delivery process. Things like that happen. Notate it. Make sure the dealer's going to take care of it. Fortunately for this guy, the dealer sounded like they were doing the right thing. So if you buy new, you're going to have to order likely. If you find something in inventory, you got to act quick. Expect long and uncertain delivery times. I'm still hearing dealers say we're not getting updates from our manufacturers. They can't say the Johnson's boat will be here on May 23rd, the week of May 23rd, because they're still having supply chain issues, and motors, especially bigger horsepower motors, are a big one. Get creative with the demo. Travel to find a boat. It's okay, but make sure you figure out the warranty. Who's going to take care of you if there's a warranty issue? Had a guy the other day emailed me. I've got some warranty things on my boat, but they're an hour and a half away. What can I do? Well, what you can do is you got to tow your boat an hour and a half to them, have them fix it, and then tow your boat an hour and a half back. Hopefully, they can do it quickly, but you're probably going to have to make a trip there, go home, have them fix it, drive back, pick it up, and come back home. So where they're located makes the difference. Not a ton of discounts, but negotiate anyway. Time and time again, when people upgrade to the First Time Boat Buyers Academy and they use the negotiation techniques that I share there for dealers and for private sellers, time and time again, they're saving $2,000, $2,500, $3,000 from the price that they think is the best they can do, but they find a way to get a little bit more thrown in because of the strategies I give them. If you're buying used, there's still some turds on the market. There's still some people that are selling boats like the Montauk, the 2018 Montauk. You don't need to sea trial this. The boat's running great. It's only 5 years old. Why would you trust me? It's wintertime. You don't want to run it now. Well, lo and behold, springtime comes out and boom, there's a big issue. See what I can get prices out there. There are people that are saying, hey, I've got this boat. I bought it for 80 grand. I'll sell it for 95 just to see what happens. So be cautious of those. Just because that's what they're asking on the used market doesn't mean that's what you should pay. Check out the NADA guides. Check out other listings on Boat Trader. Even go way outside your area just to get a sense for what things are. You probably will need to travel. My buddy that I'm helping buy a 07 Chaparral right now is going 4 hours down to Atlanta to get it from a dealer down there that's real good and respectable. Be patient, be ready, and then be willing and able to act quick if it's right. Same thing I told my friend Chris. I said, Chris, find what you want. He knew that. He's been around boats. He's a sailor, just getting a power boat for right now because of his situation. Be ready. When it comes available, act quick. Sure enough, he put a deposit on the phone and had everything in order. Now the boat's locked in. He's got money on the line. It's his. He's going to go down, do the sea trial, do the testing, and pick it up, and I'll probably head down there with him to do that. But he was ready to act quick when the right boat came along and negotiate. There will be price drops if you negotiate the right way. Again, we talk about the First Time Boat Buyer Academy. Or you can just pay what they ask because the market's so hot still, but you might as well try to negotiate and save a little bit of money. So hopefully you enjoyed this. Grab the toolkit if you haven't, boatbuyerstoolkit.com. Hit that like button if you found this valuable so more people can find it. If you want to do that First Time Boat Buyer Academy, it's firsttimeboatbuyer.com. Thanks a lot. And remember, life truly is better on a boat.
Let's pull up the anchor and run this podcast back to the docks. We'll be back again with another helpful and fun episode next time. If you'd like to be a guest on the podcast, visit boatbuyerssecretweapon.com/guest. And I'll help offer insights into your boat research and shopping experience. Also, we'd appreciate it if you took just 2 minutes to rate and review this podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast. It helps others find us so we can help more boaters. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it in your boating groups on social media. They will certainly thank you. And by the way, if you haven't already, grab your free Boat Buyers Secret Weapon Toolkit at boatbuyerssecretweapon.com/toolkit. And so you don't pay too much for your next boat, visit boatbuyerssecretweapon.com/save for a short video. Now, before we go, I want to leave you with a few first-time boating tips for when you own your new boat. Number one, know your local boating laws, basic navigation rules, and how to operate your boat safely. It'll make boating even more fun for everyone. Two, be aware of your wake at all times and pay attention to no wake zones because you are responsible for your wake. When maneuvering at slow speeds, you can put out an enormous wake. If going slow, be courteous, save some fuel, and drop down to idle speed, just in forward gear to ensure there is no wake. This could save you an expensive ticket and will keep you from being that guy on your waterway. Number three, boats do not have headlights. They have docking lights, specifically made for seeing in tight quarters and docking. Do not turn your docking lights on while cruising down the water. It can blind other boaters and is very dangerous and, again, could save you an expensive ticket. Number four, follow the maintenance schedule for your boat. Change the oil, impeller, gear lube, winterize if you need to winterize in your area. Inspect your trailer tires, bearings, and grease the hubs if you're a trailer boater to ensure you don't experience expensive and unnecessary repairs that will impact your boating time. Number five, always double check your plug is in, your battery is charged, and the fuel is full before heading out for a day on the water. It could just save your boating day. And if you're a trailer boater, I've got a few extra tips. Number one, at the boat ramp, prepare your boat, your gear, and your guests in the staging area. Then, when you're ready, back down the ramp, unload the boat, head to the parking lot, and right back down to your boat to be fast and courteous to your fellow boaters and don't tie up that ramp unnecessarily. Next, use transom tie-down straps when trailing your boat. Very bad things can happen if you don't, and they do happen. Three, check everything in the boat is secure before heading down the road. Seat cushions, gear, keys, towels, even tubes and lily pads can get blown out when pulling your boat down the highway or interstate. And most important, have fun. Enjoy your boat and get on the water as much as possible because life truly is better on a boat. Until next time, this is your friend in boating, Captain Matt.